lot of people from your community ask specific questions about historical figures. I was wondering if Bashar has brought up any characters from history and said that they were of specific importance that would be worth mentioning.
I don't remember every conversation that Bashar has had, obviously, in paneling. I don't recall. I know that there have been moments when he's talked about different figures like Tesla and so on and so forth, and Einstein. I don't really know the extent to which he has discussed them. And a lot of times that could be happening in a private session. So he could have done that not publicly.
Mm.
Uh, so that would have to be an actual question for Bashar rather than me, because I don't really know who he's talked about.
Okay.
People have talked a lot about making choices and there being some confusion about how to handle them. Specifically, how can you make choices from a neutral standpoint while still being obsessed with your highest excitement?
I'm not sure I would use the word obsession, but I mean, you're following your passion, you're making choices that are in alignment with that idea and being clear again within yourself about the difference between excitement and anxiety. So if you're making choices in any way, shape, or form more based on fear or anxiety, then that's something that someone really needs to look at within themselves to find out why they would be choosing things that really, if you pay attention, are out of alignment with who you really prefer to be. Because we always have a reason for choosing what we choose. And that reason is usually because on some level, we have a belief that says that it is more beneficial than the alternative. But you have to really understand that that could only be because you believe the alternative will actually cause something worse to happen. That may not actually be true. So you really have to look at the factual nature or lack thereof of the choices that you're making in terms of what would really be out of alignment with who you are, what would really be worse if you chose it, or is that just your fear speaking that, oh yeah, it's going to be worse, so I'll stay where I am? Because a lot of times people are making choices they know are not what they prefer, but they keep choosing it because they believe the alternative would be worse. So it's a safer bet to stay where you are, as uncomfortable as it may seem. So it's all about why are you choosing what you're choosing, and really deeply investigating the reasons that you're creating for why you choose what you choose, and whether it is truly compatible with who you prefer to be, or whether you're making choices out of anxiety. And that goes back to the idea of developing your ability to discern the difference between a positive or negative energy, between joy, love, or fear.
I have a follow-up question, which is, when we use our excitement to follow things and make choices, a lot of people have had, let's say, a childhood that's traumatic, that set them up to be excited by the wrong things. Often in love, people are most excited about somebody who's, not great for them and will destroy them, and finds people who would be good to them boring. So
Yeah.
how do we work all of that out?
Well, I mean, not to be too pragmatic about it, but some of that may require therapy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, that's simply part of a process of getting to know yourself and understand why you are making the choices you are making. If you can make a choice that starts to reflect to you in some way, shape, or form based on the behavior of the person you've chosen to be with, that something is off kilter, that something is out of alignment, then again, you have to look at, why are you staying in that relationship? Why are you making those choices? Again, you do understand that sometimes people who have been brought up in traumatic experiences, that's what they're equating to the idea of love, because that's all they've been taught, that's all they know. But eventually, as you mature, you do, if you're in any way, shape, or form focused on the idea of being kind to yourself and loving yourself, you do start to wonder why you're making those kinds of choices, if they seem to be something that is still continuing that theme of abuse. Because then ultimately, if you keep choosing that, all you're doing is continuing to abuse yourself. You're just carrying on the legacy of what you have learned. So usually most people get to the point where they feel uncomfortable with what it is that's happening around them. And that discomfort should be one of the first clues that there's something within themselves to investigate. This doesn't excuse the people that are abusing them by any means, because it's their duty to stop being abusers. Because someone who is an abuser is probably someone who was abused, and they carry on that chain of events. Nevertheless, it's up to each and every individual to be self-empowered. And in a sense, barring the fact that you can attract someone to help you, to also be self-healing. So self-healing can be attracting someone who can really truly help you, guide you in a more positive direction, but it also means taking responsibility for the choices you're making to put yourself in situations that ultimately you start to realize are simply not healthy for you. So again, it always goes back to knowing yourself, understanding why you make the choices that you make, and learning to tell the difference between making a choice out of excitement or making a choice out of anxiety that might be disguised as excitement. So it's really just honing your senses, taking the time, taking a moment, taking a pause to get in touch with yourself, meditate on what you're doing, really understand why you are choosing what you're choosing, and be okay with the fact that you might discover some negative beliefs within yourself. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It just means you're going through the process of investigating the challenges that you set up for yourself in this life so that your soul could grow. And it will be a growing experience if you allow yourself to investigate it that way, learn the lessons that are contained within it, and then ultimately free yourself from that challenge. Go on, move on to something else.
I want to just give a shout out to the Bashar Facebook community for all these amazing questions. Oh my gosh. So how will communication with extraterrestrials happen when open contact occurs? And is there a species that is most likely to contact us first?
My understanding is that there are certain things that have been going on in the background for a little while in terms of extraterrestrials quietly and silently working with certain scientists and government officials here and there that are amenable to open contact, and that they will probably be some of the institutions that will start introducing certain extraterrestrials to us in a way that we can handle. My understanding is that, of course, they will choose to introduce the extraterrestrials that are a little bit more like us at first, a little bit more human in appearance, because there are some genetic similarities between us and other ETs, and literally some genetic connections. So probably beings like Pleiadians, who are said to be very human looking, Nordic-like. Probably some of the hybrids that are a little bit more human looking will be among the first. And then it'll probably evolve into some of the other beings like the Greys and mantis beings and so on and so forth down the line that are less and less and less physically like us after we've gotten used to the idea that extraterrestrials are here and can be introduced and can work with us and live among us. So probably a very gradual program over the next couple of decades maybe, but according to Bashar, the beginning of those introductions will happen sometime within the next 5 years.